All right, nerds. I've got Jonathan Herzog, and clearly he has a new hairdo, but a lot has happened since
Something's
he's
going on.
a lot has happened since we last had Jonathan on the show. We're definitely going to talk about his congressional run and also about this little mayoral race that seems to be heating up in the next 30 days. But before we get started, we'll have Andrew and the gang warm us up.
There's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Bang, dang, it's in. Drew, come roll with the gang gang. Drew Yang gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew Yang gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew Yang gang, that's who I hooked up. Yo, there's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Bang, dang, it's in. Drew, come roll with the gang gang.
Hello, nerds.
Hello, nerds.
Jonathan Herzog, my friend. How have you been, buddy?
Hello. I see you're the Natural History Museum. Welcome, my friend.
I am. I put that in honor of you. My brother used to live like a couple blocks from there, and I was always jealous. That Upper West Side neighborhood just had a great vibe to it.
Sorry, my dog is going crazy in the background.
Oh yeah, no, your dog's excited about the show. I love it. So, well, we're going to talk about a few things. Before we get into the New York mayoral race, which will be the primary topic, I do want to catch up with you on the congressional run. And I know you worked your tail off, and I still remember some of the dialectics conversations. Tell me a little bit about like how that all went down, like what you learned from it. Just share with us a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Gosh. Well, it seems like quite the throwback now at this point. A lot has transpired since, so it's so good to see you. And yeah, I think one high level takeaway in summary is so proud and grateful of all the incredible work and fight that went into that race. And B, and this kind of bleeds into the mayoral race, is there are these high variance moments that sort of basically decide it all. In the context of our congressional race, I think I've kind of told the story back in the day, back when it was happening in the moment, but upon reflection, like how could we have had the seat in Congress? It came down to, at least in our race, the high variance point was ballot access. So we could have had a head-to-head, a one-on-one against the 30-year incumbent, but the combination of COVID and lawyers and the like made it so that the challenger vote was split. And so in that sense, our fate was sealed. But upon reflection, if I had dug deeper in that unlikeliest of moments, when everyone is threatening you and there's attacks from all sides and you stand firm, we could have had a head-to-head. We would have been guaranteed at least 40% of the vote. And I would argue, based on some projections, like we would either have narrowly won it this time or had the sort of groundwork to have narrowly lost and come back this cycle and win it. Yes. So go ahead.
John, would you have, like, are there specific decisions you made in the campaign that if you could turn back time, you would have changed a little bit? Like, could you give us an example?
Yeah, very concretely. And I'm just going to be totally honest with you, is knock the other challenger off the ballot, have a head-to-head, and win. Yep.
And knocked off the ballot means to challenge their signatures or like that, or what?
Yeah.
Were you? Yeah, that's that. I guess that's if you are the incumbent and there's a bunch of challengers, you're like, great, welcome all, split yourselves up as much as you like. I guess, was that a straight up first to the kind of post count voting type, or was there ranked choice in this one? for you?
There was definitely no ranked choice voting, and there were, as always, the electoral process. You think it's you cast your ballot and the votes are counted. It's actually very much a legal process that's really decided in administrative processes and courts and lawsuits and petitions and the like. And if you're looking at the mayoral race, for example, there is the preliminary count on election night. Then there's the mail-in ballots that are tabulated a week after. The ranked choice voting is only certified 2 to 3 weeks after in July. So this is an ongoing multi-week, if not multi-month process, because we have in-person election day voting, in-person early day voting, mail-in voting, and now ranked choice voting, which the Board of Elections hasn't even yet certified the ranked choice voting tabulation process. So, but for our campaign, for the congressional campaign, no ranked choice voting, but there was a lot of mail-in voting that came in last minute.
Wow, the fact that they haven't finalized the tabulation algorithm makes you wonder if this thing comes really, really close, which it looks like it will.
Which it will, yeah.
Like, are we gonna have like a little miniature version of Florida in New York? Could it get kind of testy?
We're gonna have a miniature version of New York in New York. And,
yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, not to walk back just even the past year, but the Democratic primary here, party tried to cancel the primary. They lost in federal court and so on and so forth. And last election cycle, it took them weeks, months to even count the mail-in votes. Not to mention there was no ranked choice voting at the time. So the answer is yes.
No, for your race, your point about splitting the kind of anti-incumbent vote, was there ever a conversation among the challengers, which is like, guys, the math is pretty clear. We're going to lose to the incumbent unless we consolidate, and let's figure out a way, like we could flip a coin or do rock, paper, scissors. But if we all just keep going, like we're all going to lose. Is there any of that kind of game theory conversation, or?
The game theory of it actually cuts in the direction of self-interest. And so if you look at the Super Tuesday, the presidential primary last time, right, it's like you can essentially boil down the candidacies of many other candidates as not Bernie, right? And so if you have a one-liner of what's the candidate, in this case, it was the candidate, not the incumbent. And so the alignments are pretty much very simply boiled down to, are you not somebody or are you yourself? That wasn't the clearest way of putting it, but it is to say that was certainly not the message we were getting. In fact, it was quite the opposite.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, that's sad that your only option, or one of your likely options, if you could do it all over again, would be to try and remove the other candidates from the ballot. It seems so anti-democratic, right?
Well, yes, but after the fact, it's so important to be grounded in the history here, because all the noise and the tweets and the headlines can really just boggle the mind. But the way Barack Obama became President Barack Obama was first by knocking off every single challenger, including the incumbent, off of the ballot for his first state Senate race in Ohio. And this is how he got his footing. Now, this doesn't justify the process. This doesn't make it better. It doesn't feel better. But it is just to say, when people say New York politics or Chicago politics, and I can point to a number of examples in this mayoral race as it has unfolded, it is, and again, just to be totally honest and blunt with you, it is an all-out war. And it is a fight for who's going to allocate resources, which vision is put into power, and people will stop at almost nothing. And if you saw, just as an example that comes top of mind, Stringer's recent ad where I don't know if you saw, he like falsified some like news station as if it were NY21 sending out these mailers with like kids and holding a microphone. Like there is no bottom for the type of depravity or games that will be played because the stakes are super high.
Yeah, that is
and
that is
the challenge is no one's honest about it because everyone has some vested interest in like maintaining a positive face around the process. But
it's so thought-provoking because at the national level, it is very easy to kind of simplify the debate between like the two major parties, and you could argue like, you know, the other party is really terrible. Now this is all happening within the Democratic Party in New York. There's no, you know, Donald Trump or Lauren Boebert getting involved here. This is Democrat on Democrat violence, right? And I'm curious, like you're saying there's an all-out war going on. What are the sort of entrenched or powerful interests that are so threatened by Yang? Like, what is it that why are they so sort of having such a visceral reaction to him?
I mean, to put it simply, here comes this outsider, and he says, "I'm not only the front runner, but I'd like to allocate $1 billion of New York City's capital to end extreme poverty every single year." Okay, well, you look back, past 7-8 weeks, let's say, if you have this kind of time horizon, the New York Times said, no, not going to happen. Week after week after week. It was a systematic, categorical takedown. And the effect, and indeed the purpose, is to make Yang untouchable. People vote on a feeling, right? Do I feel good? Do I feel bad? Do I feel positive? Do I feel neutral or negative? People like Yang. He's a likable guy. He never attacks anyone. He's super smart. He's super affable, has plans, has a vision, right? You come into this race, you're a total outsider. You haven't played inside baseball politics for 50 years like everyone else in the race. You haven't kissed the ring of the kingmakers. How dare you? No, not going to pass. And so what this technology investor and commentator, Balaji Srinivasan, calls, there's a battle of the bulge happening with legacy, for instance, legacy press institutions and sense-making institutions and this kind of new vanguard or this new set of alternatives. And this is again, just to be totally blunt, this is a war waged from all fronts of slander and libel and lies. And just even in the case of the New York Times, which has been most effective, a continuous systematic set of headlines to tar and to smear. It's not about the substance of the content. I read every single word, and each of these, you know, wild, heinous claims, there's nothing there. There's no there. I just had a conversation with Ashley Rinsberg, who is one of the preeminent commentators and observers of the tools and mechanisms and history of these types of attacks, these type of slanderous misinformation claims. And I think the funniest term that you see reappear that Ashley cites to is the term emblematic, which is to say, you'll say one line or one anonymous, unnamed source saying something about Yang, and you'll say, this is emblematic. This is emblematic of the type of X, Y, or Z. Insert negative attribute of Yang and or campaign here. The point being, emblematic to whom? Well, it's self-evidently emblematic. So it's a narrative that tells itself, that feeds on itself, that creates itself. Yeah, it's just a recognition of, are we pulling up?
Yeah, here are just some recent headlines. I just went to the New York Times site and searched for Andrew Yang, and here are some There could never be a female Andrew Yang. We can't stop writing about Andrew Yang. He promised 100,000 jobs. He hasn't done the math.
So this one, the promise to create 100,000 jobs, he ended up with 150. The New York Times was sponsoring ads, targeted advertisements with this headline.
Wow.
And so the point being, in the context of an electorate where 4% of people, registered Democratic, highly educated, informed voters are being polled, are being decided who represents them in City Hall and Congress and the like. There are very few. There's no local news. There's very few trusted sources, and the New York Times is one of the remaining vestiges of the old guard of the capital T truth. And yeah, it's heresy for this outsider to have the gall to say, not only am I liked, I'm a front runner, and I want to allocate $1 billion of capital to give it to the poorest New Yorkers to end extreme poverty. Okay, try it. Fight us.
Yeah. Why is the Times so invested in this? I mean, I could see why a candidate from the power structure would care deeply. Maybe I'm being idealistic. I thought the Times is a place to just report on the news. Why do you think they care what happens in city politics?
Yeah, so this is the book, The Gray Lady Winked, and my conversation with Ashley. It started out by his noting that the New York Times reported in the wake or in the rise of World War II that Poland invaded Germany, and like a literal 180 flip, like the opposite of the truth. And so he walks through case study after case study after case study, from the Vietnam War to the Iraq War and the claim of weapons of mass destruction, to World War II. Pick your big event, big sort of clear historical crisis of your choosing. And what he notes, and not to get too caught in the sort of intricacies of the Times, but he notes it's a patriarchal lineage of 120 years passed down from male heir to male heir. And one family has the controlling shares in deciding the editorial coverage of the paper. So it's this toxic stew of sort of personal interests with a particular set of ideology. And as he put it, it's like if your family at the Thanksgiving dinner decided the coverage of global affairs, right? You have your panoply of opinions on this and that. And one family gets to decide essentially what is capital T truth for the world in understanding what's unfolding. So even all the ideology or interests aside, there's just the matter of the concentration and centralization of sense-making power.
Wow. I find this very disturbing, and I'm not sure how to feel about it, because part of me feels like, oh, well, this is now aligning with a worldview I've heard from folks who are on the other side of the political spectrum, who have been saying, oh, the media it's run by a few families, blah, blah, blah. And I guess I would have imagined that, yeah, of course, the Times has private ownership, but the reporters are kind of like tenured faculty, and they'll report on what they see, and that the market will not reward filtered reporting, because eventually subscribers will no longer pay, and that the invisible hand will take care of things. You're not as optimistic about sort of the incentive to remain fair and balanced, if I have to use that term.
So, and again, not to get caught up in the arms and the sort of the Times per se, but I just bring this up sort of in the context of the mayoral race. There's a lot of caveats, I guess I have, which is, I am highly attuned to and sensitive and highly repulsed by any sort of conspiratorial thinking that has allusions often to anti-Semitic conspiratorial thinking. But I am drawn to evidence-based, data-driven documentation and a realistic observation I mean, frankly, I've been watching some of your videos, right? And that chart you have, right, of the trend in the polling, and there's nothing deterministic about this. There's no guarantee. I want to get to us talking about how we can ensure that we still can win this, because that is sort of the number one goal, all those sort of forces aside. But it is to say that that didn't happen just by magic. It didn't happen sort of miraculously. It happened with a systematic, concerted effort to just one cut here, one cut there, 1,000 cuts everywhere, to give folks a sense of a feeling like, hey, that Yang guy, I like him, but maybe he's not as safe as I thought. Or there's some social consensus, or there's some polite society telling me, stay away. But all this aside, all this sort of depths of despair aside, we can 100% win this, and it's up to us. That is sort of the key thesis of all of this, is that unfortunately, the legacy institutions are dead or dying, and they're on their last remaining breath. But it's up to us, and we actually have the numbers, the power, the will, the passion, the capacity to 100% win this election, and that can change the course of history. And so I would say 1 hour a day of phone banking, 1 hour a day of text banking. We have 30 days. We have done far more impossible things before. Let's win this, and let's show them who actually has the power, which is us.
Yeah, I came to a similar conclusion recently. Looking at this chart, you definitely see it's going to be a real scramble, and we only have 30 days to go. Now, as much as I don't love the trend line, there is one line that's higher than the others, and that's Andrew Yang's. And so this is totally winnable, eminently winnable, but it does require, in a way, I think the Yang gang may potentially have rested on our laurels a little bit, because we're like, oh, our guy's already the front runner and he just announced,
Right.
And,
but so here's the thing, is like, we have as much control of what happened 5 minutes ago, yesterday, as we do what happened in ancient Greece, right? Like right now, we have 30 days. Our guy is still in the lead. Our vision is still in the front runner to lead the world's 11th largest economy, to pass $1 billion to end extreme poverty in New York fucking City. Let's take it over. Let's win it back. And yes, it does not matter what happened yesterday, 2 months ago, 5 months ago. Put that chart away. We're going to create the end of that chart. There's no deterministic end to that graph. We decide it. We create it. And I can tell you this and point you to countless examples to give you extreme certainty of that fact, but only if we all act together as a collective.
Totally. Yeah, I think 30 days is enough time to either protect the lead or ideally widen it. And it's also not so much time that we're asking everyone to devote their life for the next 6 months
days.
and move
you
to
can
Iowa.
Do 30 days of anything. You can literally do 30 days of anything. And you can just do this from home. Like, everyone will set their own personal boundaries, right? We've all been exhausted and burnt out and, overworked in our own ways over the past period of time. But we can also all commit to, hey, for me, I can do 1 hour of phone banking every day. For me, I can do 1 hour of text banking every day. For me, like, pick that one thing that you can do consistently every single day for these 30 days and watch how you make Andrew Yang the next mayor.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I'm just gonna put in a banner here just so people they can just go to yangfornewyork.com/volunteer, and you can find out all the ways that you can pitch in. I'll also put that in the chat. It is.
Yeah, and I'll say two.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, two quick things on this. One thing is, and just to cite the data, in every single one of these polls, no matter which one you look at least 20% of the folks being polled are undecided.
Yeah.
So ignore everything else. Like, it's like there's a lot of leeway. There's a lot of play in the joint. And the other thing I'll say, I believe this is true, every weekday, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern, we have a phone banking party, right? So we're all on Zoom. We get to see each other. You're with people. You have support. There's people from the campaign to help you and guide you through. I'll be there. And it's really fun. And you get to see the difference you're making. You literally talk to people who get to decide the election. There's no theoretical process here. There's no magic. It's like, we need to put in the work for these 30 days to make this happen. So join me, join us, 5 to 7 p.m. on weekdays. I think it's 3 to 5 p.m. on weekends. If you want to do filmmaking, it's really fun, extremely impactful, because what you do is you identify you need to know, we have to know who are our people, right? And so knowing where they rank Yang now is super, super critical and valuable. I remember, as Andrew Frawley said on your channel recently, it may not be the sexiest stuff, right? But we need to get the fuck off of Twitter and get the fuck on the dialers, on the phones, and on the texts. This is completely in our hands.
Here is the number 3 candidate right now, undecided. So if a third, even if more people from the undecided go for Yang than Adams, it's done. We've got it. But it does require converting those undecideds to the Yang camp. And I agree with you. Everybody can pitch in, and this movement, I think, even just getting Yang so far in a national race with powered by a lot of volunteers, in some ways might be harder than what we need to do to get Yang to become mayor. So it seems achievable. Let me share with you what I've heard from some Yang gang that have commented to me privately, and I'm trying to beat the drum a little bit to get people to pitch in and dig deeper. And some people have said, well, I don't live in New York. New York's not my thing. I'm not really interested in New York, local issues. And so that's why I'm not volunteering whereas I did. And literally, some people moved to Iowa and New Hampshire, but they're not getting involved in the New York mayoral race. What would you say to folks who are that this is not my race to participate in?
Yeah, so I'll say a couple of things. Number one, I get it. Number two, let's be super, super reasonable and data-driven here, right? And not think about any of the noise, any of the clutter. Be very clear. $1 billion a year, the biggest basic income program in American history, to be implemented in the world's financial capital, in the world's 11th largest economy after Canada. When we make this happen in New York City, not only is this already happening, basic income in Los Angeles as a result of our work, in I believe Chicago and a number of other cities, various trials and various pilots are happening on their own accord, mayors for AGI, for annual guaranteed income. If you cared about the values and vision, beginning with a universal basic income that animated the Yang presidential campaign, this is it. And also, I totally get it. No one's asking you, and I'm not suggesting to you, Don't fly out to Iowa. Don't fly out to New York. Don't fight battles on Twitter, right? With trolls and who are spewing lies left and right. Get off of Twitter. Don't fly anywhere. Live your life. Be at home, but give 1 hour every day and join the phone making party. A, because it's fun. B, because you get to develop some skills if you want to run for yourself or support someone else and understand the guts of the operations. C, $1 billion a year, biggest basic income program in American history that will then be able to set a precedent for it to spread around the country and around the world. And like, I don't know what to say. Like, if you bought into, and nearly 500,000 people donated to the presidential campaign. I think like 5% of that donated to Yang's mayoral campaign. Millions of people were activated for the presidential, and some tiny fraction, single-digit percent, are activated around this mayoral. Again, I totally get it. This is not like, I'm not holier than thou. Like, I totally get it. All I'm saying is right now it's May 23rd. The primary is on June 22nd. We have 30 days, and all I want you to think about, log off of Twitter, literally delete your password, forget your login, delete the app, and just think, $1 billion, biggest basic income program in American history that will then set a precedent and spread like wildfire. Like, that's it. 30 days, an hour a day.
Yeah, it is an interesting thought exercise that if Yang had become president and we were in a major battle to do $1 billion UBI pilot at the federal level, I'm pretty sure
we would, like, what? Like, that would be just,
we would go to war
wild
over that, right? And
right?
everybody would be on the streets demanding it. And here we have a dude that is a front runner in a mayoral race, and where if he wins, maybe it's not the full billion, but it's going to be the largest UBI pilot ever done in American history. And we've got 30 days to get it. So why not pitch in a little more? To join the sort of the daily party you were talking about, Jonathan, do they find out info on that through the /volunteer page, or is there another area where they go to jump in?
So that's great. I think every way will kind of route you there. It's really like, and trust me, I like things to be very simple. I want to click a button and then get in there. Like, I don't want to do anything. There are like 3 steps, right? So you'll have to like get on the Slack and like read one piece of paper. It'll take you like 10 minutes, 5 minutes max, and you'll get into the dialer and into the Zoom. I actually posted the Zoom on Twitter the other day because I was like, let's just make it as easy as possible. And then all these like trolls came in and started playing music and like Zoom bombing. So there's a reason, unfortunately, we have scammers. This is the internet. And so there are like 3 steps you have to take. It takes you 5 to 10 minutes and you're in. But yeah, just to reiterate, this is like 100% attainable and 100% the biggest impact thing anyone in America can do to advance the end of poverty and the passing of a basic income. So to me, like, we're all aligned on that value and that mission. And like, literally put this morning, put yesterday, put a month ago, put a year ago, everything behind you. You have zero control over that. It literally does not matter. 30 days, let's do this, and then let's party in City Hall in January.
Yeah, if you believed and you really wanted Yang to be president, why wouldn't you want him to land the biggest kind of mayoral job in the country, maybe in the world? And I don't think it would harm his chances down the road to take on broader leadership roles at the federal level by having been elected mayor and done a great job.
It's not just that it wouldn't harm, but I guess to take the negative case, like, if we don't fight for this, if we don't make it happen, if we let other forces decide the course of history, it will, not to be dramatic, but like that might be the end of Yang, right? Like it's like, you know, people like we have to decide how that turns out. We have to decide what comes next. There's no guarantee of it. And so if fear and the avoidance of it drives you more, like what could be possible in the absence of Yang as a national leader, or if the positive affirmative case for what's possible here drives you more, either one, latch onto it. Because,
yeah, if someday you want Yang to be president, he needs to win this race. And
correct.
you could have had any other opinions about whether he should have run or not.
But he's already in it, right? It's already happening. So like that,
And so like you know, in business, sometimes they talk about the skill of Amazon talks about this a lot. The need to be able to disagree and commit. And so I've had some conversations with a lot of folks in the Yang gang, really kind of longtime supporters of Yang, who are like, I never wanted him to run, and see, look. And my view is like, whether who knows what would have happened had he not run. But he's in it now. And if you believe in this guy's long-term potential to make an impact, and he's probably the most prominent UBI supporter in the country, we need him to succeed in New York. Like, it needs to happen. And we've come so far. I mean, the guy has real inertia. He has real momentum. He has a network that is growing and growing. Like, why throw it away? You know, this is a long game we're playing. So I agree with you, Jonathan. I hope people hear that. And, you know, I think a lot of other candidates in the New York race would love to be in Yang's position. So, yes, the lead isn't what it used to be, but it's 30 days. He's the front runner. Like, let's get him over the line. And maybe the surprise of this race will be, oh, remember 30 days out, there was a turning point when the Yang gang kind of reawakened and took everybody by surprise, because this is where, you know, I think a lot of other candidates don't have a reserve.
They have
cavalry.
Nothing behind them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying, like, it's so hard because it's like, I just want to, it's like, you know, when Yang says in his book, it's like, I want you to see what I see. Like, I'm trying to think the most like potent, powerful examples of this. But just to what you said, I mean, they're out of ammo, right? And like, we're in the final stretch of this race, and they've thrown all they've got, right? They've thrown it all at him. Congratulations, they made some progress. Like, good job. But like, we haven't even started, right? Like, we haven't even tried fighting. Like, what if we tried? You know, like, what happens then? Like, we've gotten this far. We brought our guy from obscurity, from nothingness, to front runner of the New York City mayoral race, to having changed federal policy, driven the child tax credit, cutting poverty in half for children, driving the trillions of dollars in bailouts to be directed towards direct cash relief, which we would not have had otherwise, to win the Senate races, to do the impossible. And we haven't even tried in this context. What if we tried, like, literally just a little bit?
Yeah.
Then the other thing I want to think about, and again, having seen a number of your videos, is
do you remember when the elf army came in and turned the tide in The Hobbit?
I have not seen those.
Well, I'll tell you.
Yeah, sure. Whatever metaphor, whatever analogy.
Yeah. So basically, there was this huge battle, and then reinforcements came in and turned the tide. And my argument would be, maybe the Yang gang is those reinforcements behind the mountain.
Not maybe, Tom. Not maybe. It is. It is.
It is. Fair enough.
I also want to. I feel like you've asked many of your guests in the past about, like, what if Yang hadn't dropped out, or something to this effect. Right?
Yes.
And my answer to you, because I know no one seemed to to answer that question, my answer is yes, 1000% yes. And so I'll share this just briefly in the context of like, I get it, right? I get the activation energy. I get the disappointment. I get the sort of malaise. I get why we would want to sit back. I 100% firmly believe if we take it back to that fateful February 12th date, right, pre-COVID, I agree with your thesis of the case, 1000%, that if Yang had been the sole singular alternative to Joe Biden, 78-year-old running amidst a global pandemic, he could have won. But again, this just illustrates there are these high variance moments where you've just been publicly shamed to a scale you can't even fathom, right? Everyone's yelling at you and threatening you and coming from all sides. And just me on a tiny, smaller microcosm level, thinking about that ballot access thing, right? It's exactly in those moments when you're seemingly cornered in the corner and everything's against you, right? That's exactly when the field clears and you have that path to victory. Now, the reason I bring this up is because, again, like, I get it. Like, I get the disappointment. I get the frustration, all the disagreement, all the messiness of this process, right? And the differences of voices and people. But, like, get up, let's go. Yeah, this time, it's not even up to him. Because there's only one election, there's only one primary, and he's already in it.
Yeah.
He's committed to be in it. 30 days, it's up to us. It's actually not even up to him. So we don't even actually get to outsource this decision to him. We decide.
Totally agree. You know, if you look at a poker analogy, sometimes you play a hand and maybe like if someone was like, oh, I wouldn't have played this hand, but we're in the hand and the chips are in the middle of the table. So like, we could talk about that, the retrospective later, but we need to win the pot now.
On June 23rd, happy to have that combo.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of conversation. And it could be a conversation about, wow, thank God the Yang Gang reactivated and put it all out there, because now we have helped elect the next mayor of the biggest city in the country, who is now going to push forward his #1 objective, which is the largest basic income pilot probably in the history of
the world,
of the planet. Yeah. So that seems like a pretty good prize worth winning.
Yes. And also, like, you know what? I'll even say this. Perfect fucking timing. Yang Gang, we're so strategic, always playing 4-dimensional chess. We sort of let it play out. We saw all the forces at play. And then we waited on the sidelines, waited. And 30 days, right as things were getting tighter, right as things were getting close, we said, hold on, this is ours. This is ours to take. So perfect timing. Like, those really, like, this is a great, it's the exact right moment to catch them when they're off guard and they are out of ammo. They've lobbed all that they can at our guy.
Yeah, man. This is when the elves come in. This is when the elves come in. You got to catch up on your Hobbit, Herzog. I have a feeling you'd enjoy it. It's pretty good story. I know we're running towards the end of the conversation, but I wanted to just ask you: is there anything else that you wanted to share or discuss before we wrap up?
I feel like I was shouting this whole time, but
you're fired up. I love it.
I just, like, I don't know how to convey it, how to communicate it. But I think, like, other campaigns, other, political movements, call them whatever, they, there's this saying, like, they know how to fall in line, right? Get in line and sort of do what has to be done, right? You can look at the example of, like, Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, everyone just being like, on a dime, like, it must be me prior to Super Tuesday 2020 to it must be Joe. Joe is our savior. Joe is evil to Joe is our savior, because they got in line, right? They had extreme clarity. They said, at all costs, like, it must be Joe over Bernie. And so what I'm saying to us is, at all costs, it must be the eradication of poverty, the passing of a universal basic income. And if that is the sort of number one, right, sort of guiding North Star, then there's not even a debate. There's not even a question. Like, 1 hour every day from wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just have fun, join the party, and make history at the same time.
I love it. I hope everybody listening really thinks about this. And if you can hit that volunteer link and get involved and pitch in, donate, make calls, text, talk to your friends, this is the time to do it. Afterwards, we will either celebrate or it's going to be really freaking painful. So let's celebrate and let's put ourselves on the path to success. Jonathan Herzog, it is so great to get you back into the Nerd Zone. I look forward to continuing this conversation, and hopefully next time we talk, we'll be looking even stronger, and we'll be talking about, wow, what a turning point that was, that 30-day mark.
I'll see you on the dialer.
Goodbye, nerds.
Goodbye, nerds.